When I was a sophomore in college, I went and hung out one evening at the Campus Crusade house. It wasn't an official Campus Crusade thing, it just was this house where 4 or 5 of the older, like, student leadership guys lived. I went there to watch the game. I think it was a basketball game. And, there was a large group there, maybe a dozen, a mixed group, men and women. And when the game was over, we were all hanging out, just chatting. Kind of lazing about where we had been, on the couch, on the floor. And while we were talking, the volume had been lowered, the TV was still on, news came on. This is at the University of Florida. A newscaster came on. Like a reporter, like one of those distance reporters, whatever you call them. And lo and behold, she was interviewing a woman at the beach. Buxom woman in a bikini. And all these Campus Crusade guys, all at once, they had some sort of cultural understanding that, although I had grown up in Christian circles, I hadn't gotten the Campus Crusade memo. Because they all immediately yelled, "Oh!" Like, really scandalously, like I just saw someone get hit by a car. Kind of, "Oh!" They covered their eyes very ostentatiously, looked away. And I thought to myself, what a bunch of douchebags. I was 19 years old. I had my fair share of sexual struggles. Anyone who knew me then will tell you that if you're immodest enough to ask them. But I would have been fine with, if I had seen that image on TV, honestly, I would not have struggled with it. I would have just kept going. It just drew so much attention to it. Although I haven't struggled with that particular image, as Christians like to talk about that sort of thing. That's got to be the only pair of boobies I remember seeing in a bikini from 20 years ago. Because those dudes made such a big deal out of it. And the oddest thing about it was there were women there. So these women and I were kind of looking around at each other. The message a reaction like that sends is, women make me impure. It's not that I am impure. Women make me impure. I was pure until someone thrust a woman into my eyes. And Christians need to stop blaming women. Christian men need to stop blaming women for their struggles. Now, this video is going to work within a Christian cosmos. If you're not one who has bowed the knee to the Lord Jesus, then at best this will be a cultural tour for you. Enjoy it if you wish, or I'll see you on Monday. Oh, actually, I still have to do that cocktail video. Christian men. 3 things I want to tell you about not blaming women for your sexual sin. The first is that your purity is your responsibility. In Mark 18, Jesus condemns curses those through whom temptation comes. But he immediately follows that with, if your own eye causes you to sin, tear it out. So, regardless of whom temptation comes by, you are the one responsible for your eye. Now, you know that your temple, that your house, that your spiritual house is accepted by God, and that God comes to dwell with you. But like a good son, you want to present your best work to God, even though you know it's not your work that makes you acceptable before God. And then, as you're going through this and you're building this house, all these women who said they would help you by being modest aren't. So what? It's your house. Work on it. And if you are struggling with sexual sin, you cannot be trusted to be objective about women's modesty. Yes, the Bible calls for women to be modest. The Bible is very clear about that. That's for them. You tend to your own house. Great peace have those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble. Second thing I want to say, you should already be married. / you should be working on your marriage.
Sir, can I tell you something?
Yeah, what's up?
I got 100% on my history test.
Good job. Well, so yeah, this little bit is not going to be that relevant to any 17-year-old who's watching. But for everyone else, you should already be married, or you should be working on your marriage. Plain and simple. So the other day, I heard a Christian man ranting about women on online dating sites. And women who portrayed themselves as Christian on online dating sites. And the way they portrayed themselves with the pouting lips, the posteriors stuck out, very come hither sort of things. He was very angry, talking about how they were making him sin. And he particularly was angry at women who had dared to have crucifixes twixt their breasts. So, how is it that he found himself at a Christian, or not a Christian? I think he's been on a bunch of websites. I'm sure some were Christian, but how did he find himself on dating websites? Well, by his own admission, it was because he'd had a couple of chances to marry, but things hadn't worked out. So now he finds himself with very narrow options. So here's what I have to say to you. If you're old enough as a Christian to not really be single anymore, to be a bachelor, then the reason you're not married is you. It is a problem of sin or a problem of judgment, which might almost be the same thing. And I say that knowing godly men who have married late. Now, some men are called to be single. When I say some, I mean almost none. Even for men who still classify as single, you should be getting married. Get married. It's good for you. Women are our sexual fulfillment, which means that they are a fulfillment of what we are as humans. Very few men can be without a woman. And women want to marry. If you're not married yet, it is a problem with your sin or your judgment. Plain and simple. So if you're not married yet, you should hurry up and put on armor of wife. Now once you're married, of course, you realize your wife is not going to magically keep you from sexual sin. Although she will certainly make the atmosphere more conducive. When there are a lot of very serious problems, especially with pornography being as rampant as it is today. A lot of problems of sexual impurity that can enter a marriage are very serious and require a lot of intervention. But for most of us, in our daily struggles, when lust rears its ugly head, your first thought shouldn't be, how can I avoid these sins? Your first thought should be, I ought to be tending to my wife. When you tend to your wife, oh, the fruit she gives. So, I went a little long on the you should be married part of the rant. So, if you're already married, just tend to your wife. When you tend your wife, oh, the joys of that garden. And back to responsibility. If you are struggling with lust, it is not the girl's dating profile's fault. It is not the cashier at the grocery store's fault. It is not that girl who walks down the street every day's fault. It was not your wife's fault. It's your fault. Third and last, your anger is unbecoming, you slut. Face it, you are a man whore. Let's imagine you and someone else. You are a young man, a pure, sweet virgin, who is eagerly awaiting his consummation day in marriage. But inside, you struggle with sexual sin. A young maiden, a classmate of yours perhaps, is in the same boat. She also struggles with sexual sin while keeping herself outwardly pure. Well, guess what? While you are in the basement fapping, the way her sin expresses itself isn't in these immodest clothes. You can see when she's struggling with sexual sin. Because women want to be desired. That is their lust, to be lusted after. So you can see it. You can hide your ugly little sin. So you blame the woman. You are the one who is sinning. You have heard it said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out, throw it away. Look, you blame her for your lust. You do it because you're angry. The word blame, we blame when we're angry. And if you think I'm getting all new agey or Freudian on you, the word blame comes from the word blaspheme. And the word blaspheme literally means hurtful speech, injuring talk. Well, when you blame a woman for your sexual sin, you are blaspheming against her. You are the man whore. Deal with that. Don't worry about your sister. When it comes to your sexual sin, you're the one to blame. Proverbs alone gave you all you needed to be sexually pure. But of course, you failed. Like everyone else is not Jesus. Therefore, don't turn on your sister. Turn to Jesus. A little postscript. I forgot to mention when talking about tending to your wife. If you got angry at your wife today, do a little check. Be honest. Did you look at porn yesterday?